Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Bitter Geeks Podcast. This is episode 18, and today we're gonna finally round out our thoughts and feelings on everything about The Rings of Power Season 1 now that the season is over. It finished airing about a week ago, and this week I am joined by Liz, who, if you've listened to this podcast for any period of time, you know she's been here for a little while. And we also have a new guest who will introduce themselves here in a second. So, so we have Liz here. Liz, how you doing?
I'm good, Nick. Hi, everyone. Good to be back on here and talk about the rest of the season.
I know if anyone listened to us, for the 40 of you who watched or listened last time, there's a lot of stuff we didn't talk about, so we're going to do our best to try to talk about that stuff here as much as we can. So we have Liz, and then again joining us is if you're into Lord of the Rings Twitter or DCEU Twitter, this is a great guy to follow, great guy to see his thoughts and opinions on everything, and he's in our group chat of Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power, is Josh. Josh, how are you doing?
I'm doing all right. Glad to be here. I'm Josh Too Good For You on Twitter. You could just find me on there. I'm a big Lord of the Rings fan. I love the first three Peter Jackson movies. The Hobbit movies are good too, but I mean, I know that they're not very well liked.
Now, here we respect the Hobbit.
Yes, very much so.
I mean, obviously they're not as great and powerful as the first three movies.
That's a whole other podcast episode. We can.
I know. It's funny. So our last episode before the Rings of Power podcast we did last time was just me, Liz, and another person on our podcast, Al, just talking about Lord of the Rings in general and the films. And we talked a while about the Hobbit films because, I know this is about Rings of Power, but just, since Josh is new here, we're going to briefly talk about some of this stuff. But yeah, the Hobbit movies for me, obviously I'm coming in to all of this having not read any of the books. I know some details here and there. I know the general idea and the things that happen in the books, but I haven't sat down and read any of them. I have the audiobook for Fellowship, but I haven't had the time or chance to really listen to it fully. But so I'm coming in with a very different set of eyes than someone who's either read the books or been into this, into Middle Earth and all the Tolkien works for years, like Liz or Josh here. So for me, I always loved the Hobbit movies from the first time I saw them after I first watched the original Lord of the Rings trilogy a few times through. And they're not perfect, but I still really enjoy them and respect the effort that Peter Jackson made under the circumstances. So
yeah.
Agree with all that.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't read every Tolkien book. I've read a little bit of the Silmarillion and the audio book for it. Eventually I'll go back and finish it. I don't know when that's going to happen though.
Mm-hmm. I don't blame you. I've been wanting to, because I'm it's very hard for me to just find the time and read a book. So I thought, I got the Audible free credit thing so I can get a free book a year ago. And I'm maybe now is the time I can finally get actually into the Lord of the Rings. And I listened to it for 20 minutes. And it's the one with Andy Serkis doing the reading, which is very cool.
Oh.
And it's a lot of information. Just at the start of Fellowship. And I haven't even got to the actual main story yet. It's still just the history of Middle Earth up until that point. And that's the thing about Tolkien is he's just so into detail with everything. It's just, love it or hate it, that's just how, I understand why people were trepidatious about Rings of Power, because, they're taking this little sliver of information and expanding it into, several hours of TV. But yeah, I was definitely, going in with an open mind with Rings of Power, knowing that. And now that the season's over, I had a good time. It wasn't the best TV I've ever watched, but it was still really enjoyable. Again, I have a couple issues here and there, but I had fun and I had a good time watching and theorizing it, even if some of the things I theorized were wrong or the things that the show did I wasn't necessarily the biggest fan of. Halbrand.
Yeah.
We can get it. I mean, do we want to get into?
Yeah, you know what? Let's just go into it now. Let's stop beating around the bush. All right.
Okay. Well, spoiler alert. Halbrand is Sauron. Okay. Well, let's just talk about that. I mean, if you listen to the last podcast, you'll know that wasn't my first choice
or mine
or my fifth. I didn't care for it. Just based on what I'd seen in the first 4 or 5 episodes, whatever it was. And did that change by the 8th episode? Not really. I still have a lot of problems with it. I still think it needed better execution. Mm-hmm. However, I will say the reveal scene itself was very good. I thought that it was a well-written scene, well-acted, well-directed. It was good. And I thought in that scene itself, Sauron was a very interesting character, and a very intriguing villain. Mm-hmm. So I was happy with how they depicted Sauron just in that scene. But personally, I think that the twist was too reliant on characters being dumbed down a little bit over the course of the season. Uh-huh. And characters just never really asking very basic questions or just making a lot of assumptions about Halbrand that felt far-fetched to me and was honestly kind of lazy writing. And also there are a few things that just actually don't make sense. But so I didn't care for the build-up to the twist at all. The reveal scene itself is good. Mm. So that's where I stand on it.
Yeah, I'll be honest, as much as I dislike Halbrand being Sauron, and just my main issue is that it just felt like it was too easy of oh, here's this guy who comes out of nowhere, he seems kind of fishy, and and that's it.
He is.
And I just I just feel like there was little effort to have the audience actually have fun with playing Who Is He? Because I feel like at the end of the day, people who knew this content enough would know that the stranger who was with the Harfoots wasn't Sauron. Yeah. And Adar, who I absolutely loved Adar. I feel like that was also too easy knowing that he probably wasn't Sauron. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I kind of just wish the writers would have just given us a little more credit as an audience.
Yeah, I agree. And in my opinion, some of the hints that were clearly for book readers for Halbrand were just so blatant. Oh, he likes blacksmithing, and here he is, he's going to monologue about his ideology about the rings. These were and I get it's but the general audience doesn't get that. Okay, yes, but these days writers do make shows with fans in mind. Mm-hmm. They know what people are going to think of those scenes. So, and I guess they weren't really expecting to surprise that many fans with that. But to me, just the hints that he was Sauron were unimaginative and kind of boring.
And for me, it was just lazy. I just felt like there's just the effort, I don't know. And then, I feel okay, I felt like it was obvious from day one, but then I feel the moment the finale started, it's all right, this dude is for sure Sauron from the moment we...
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. It was no longer a question. The second he was with Celebrimbor, I was okay, it's over. Now it just doesn't make sense if he's not Sauron.
When he said, call it a gift, I'm okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. Because at that point, it would have just been stupid if he wasn't.
It's over now. So.
Yeah, and then we started mourning. Yep. And the other problem with it was that it was, and this is why I think that Sauron never really should have been a twist in this way. That it was so rushed in the final episode. When you think about it, Galadriel in episode 7 goes from fully trusting Halbrand and just having this really close relationship with him, and then her very next scene with him, after he gets taken to the emergency room, in their very next scene together in episode 8, she's completely distrustful of him. Like, just because of, like, one thing that Celebrimbor said, she's like, whoa, that sounds exactly like what Sauron said.
I don't know what it was, but, like, I feel like the show realized it was in the finale, and they're like, all right, we gotta do this right now. Like, it was just...
Yeah, well, I mean... They did it because they were like, well, we can't have him working with Celebrimbor in the same episode because then everyone's going to know he's Sauron. So we got to hurry up and we got to get to the reveal. We got to get to the reveal right now. like that's... And as a result, unfortunately, we just got like this really rushed ring-making sequence in the last episode.
And here's the thing, I don't think the finale was bad. I just think that the way that it was, the reveal... The setup to the reveal was messy.
I agree. Yeah.
But I was kind of confused, too, because, like, when they got there, they put him on the hospital bed. And then a second after that, like, he's out of there.
Yeah. That was bad.
Like, I wanted to see, I thought there was, I was thinking there was going to be, like, another thing of, like, him being in bed. And then Galactus or something like that, like, has another conversation with him. But then it's like, no, like, they skipped over that and he's already out of bed, like, talking to Celebrimbor and shit. I'm like, but how did that, like, what happened? Like,
no, I thought the episode in general was kind of badly edited. Like, the scene where, like, you know, Elrond and Galadriel, like, saw him in his hospital bed, he's getting tended to, and then they have their conversation. I think the very next scene was Halbrand just wandering into the workshop, and it was like, weren't you just on the brink of death? Like, what do you...
I know, like, it was just, it was weird. It was weird, yeah.
Has it been a few days? Like, what?
Celebrimbor wasn't like,
are you okay? Yeah, that was silly. It was just like, it was because they were like, okay, we're in a hurry. We got to get him in Celebrimbor's workshop now. like, that was... And it was just the problem. That was always going to be the problem with the Halbrand reveal. They had to rush the hell out of it.
Yeah, and it just, yeah.
That's why you have a problem. I'm like,
hello.
Logan.
I'm really mixed it though. Like, because the stuff that I do appreciate and I like about it. But there's certain things that it's like, guy is so damn suspicious from start and nobody is really like paying attention. Like Celebrimbor, like my guy, like he's saying like he's just wandering in your workshop, like, and he's like, it's just weird. Like,
and one thing, real quick, one thing I want to bring up too, like in episode 6, at the end of the battle and everything, and everyone's celebrating, and here comes Halbrand. Like, no one, like, double checks who this guy is. Like, Galadriel just, like, in passing is like, oh, yeah, he's, like, the king of blah, blah, blah. And everyone who just fought and died were like, all right, random dude who we've never seen before or heard of. All right, you're our new king. Yay! Like...
Yeah, that's why I said the twist was way too reliant on everyone just making assumptions about him, and it was way too lucky. Like, and does someone want to explain to me why Sauron was carrying around the dead Southland King sigil for 1,000 years? Like, just in case someday an elf came along and was like, oh my god, you're the king of the Southlands, and we gotta make you king of the Southlands. Like, why did he have it? Why? The only reason he would have it is to deceive somebody, and we're supposed to also think that...
But Liz, he's Sauron the Deceiver.
Oh my god. So, he was really playing a long game. He took that sigil off of the king 1,000 years ago and just kept it because he liked it. Like, that, okay, sure. Like, that's very silly, and I expect it won't be explained because it just doesn't make sense.
And it's like, why is he on the boat? Like, why? I mean, I guess you could say, like, he was getting away from Adar, but, like, where is he going?
Like
Charlie Vickers says that's going to be explained in season 2, but honestly, that should have been explained in season 1.
That really should have been explained, because I'm like, what could be the big grand reveal that we need to wait for like 2 or 3 years for that? Like
the only way it's a reveal, because like if he was going to Valinor, I think that would have been revealed there, because it would have made Galadriel feel even worse. Like, oh shit, he was going to go face Judgment, and I stopped him. I think the only way it can be a reveal is if he was there because somehow he knew Galadriel was going to jump off that boat, which doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense, but it's the only explanation.
Because, like, I feel like the only, like, being that would have that level of, like, I don't know how to say the word, omniscience?
Omniscience? I don't know, one of those.
Like, all-knowing everything, like, to be true. And, like, yeah, like, they all, like, they're powerful and everything, but, like, there still is, like, a level of, like, power, like, there's a hierarchy to it all. Like, I feel like that's just way too much.
I think we're probably just I think the reveal's gonna be boring. I think we're gonna find out that he was either trying to go to Valinor, which should have been revealed in the first season, or he was just got on that raft because, like, or the boat, whatever it was, and because he was actually just being forced off his lands and he was just floating aimlessly. Like, that's the only other option.
Yeah, I feel like no matter what, we're not going to be very happy about it.
Yeah.
Which, like, it's whatever. Like, I'm not, like... At this point, I'm not angry about just not the best writing. You know?
For a twist, like, it wasn't a very strongly written twist. Like, and I've seen people try to say it was, but it really wasn't. It was way too reliant on luck and assumptions and no one asking him a real question for the entirety of the season, which doesn't make sense. And the reason, and because of that, Halbrand never had a single conversation with anyone besides Galadriel for the first 7 episodes. If anybody notices that, like, and it was because they knew, they were like, oh, if we put him in a scene with someone else, it wouldn't make sense that they also don't ask him any questions. So we can't do it. Like, and so I think, like, his character really suffered because of that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Galadriel, I mean, he does say it, like, he says it too, like, that he told her that he had did some crazy stuff and she didn't give it. Like,
some crazy stuff, some light genocide.
So, I mean, that just shows you right there. I guess that could speak to that Galadriel was just, like, focusing on her own goals. And that's... Like, I'm cool with that explanation, but at the same time, like, there still has to be some level of, like, investigation. Like, they're just inquiring, like, you know, like, and they didn't have, like, the South. I mean, I guess you could say the Southland have just waited.
What was that, Josh?
Kiddos. Yeah, so, like, I have a lot of mixed emotions about it, clearly. Mm-hmm. Now I'm at the point where I'm like, now that I know, and now that I've had the time to kind of, like, settle on it, I'm like, it's whatever, like, I'll live with it. Like, when we were first talking about it, and we were like, okay, it's probably gonna end up being Sauron, and, you know, and Liz was kind of preparing us in our group chat for it. Like,
yes,
I was ready to be like, you know what, if that's it, I was kind of almost ready to give up the show if that ended up being the reveal. Now that it's happened and that ended up being the case, it's okay, Logie. Now that that's the case, I'm like, okay, whatever. Like, I'm still not happy about it, but I'll live with it for now, I guess. Like, I'll see what they do with it. Like, it could end up being, like, they just somehow make it even worse in season 2, and it's just even worse writing. But until then... Alright, bud? He's all right.
Okay, good.
But yeah, if they go that road, like even worse in season 2, then yeah, I'll be like, all right, then yeah, I'm giving up. But like for now, I'll let the show tell its story and see where it goes.
I mean, I agree with that. The reason, I mean, I was so concerned that they were gonna go like this full redemptive sort of path for Sauron. It was gonna be like, you make me better, Galadriel. I want to keep the elves from fading, and then like her rejection would make him go evil again. That would have really bothered me. I guess they sort of did that on some level, but it was clear that Sauron was bad and crazy, like, and that he didn't have these altruistic motives. So that made it a little bit better. And I like I said, I liked the reveal scene itself. I thought it was well done and well written. So if we're getting that Sauron from that scene in season 2, then I think that, okay, I'm going to be on board, because I don't have to watch Sauron be kind of an empty vessel of a character that exists to be a Sauron hint for the entirety of season 2. That was him in season 1. So hopefully he'll be a lot better in season 2.
Yeah. Hopefully.
Yeah, I think I too. I think he'll be the Dark Lord and everything. But it's still stuff that I'm like questioning, like, because I'm not buying into he was repentant this whole time. Like,
oh, meaning no.
On, like, Liz, you said that he had the sigil or whatever for so long. Yeah. It's like you were using this thing to deceive people this entire show, and then it's like he also said, like, to Galadriel that. You don't know what I did before I got on that raft, but then he's like, when he's about to kill Adar, he tells Galadriel, "You don't know what he did to me,"
which is so funny, because it's like she'd be glad.
Right? That's why I'm like, dog, like he'd be doing, like, she'd be like, okay, like, that's fine. Like,
you don't know what he did. He killed Sauron. She'd be like, oh wow, that's nice.
Right. I mean, the only thing she'd be mad at is that she would have wanted to do that herself, or whatever.
That conversation doesn't work on that level. Galadriel, you don't know what he did. He took the chance for you to kill me away.
Yeah, so it's just like stuff like that. Like, why would she give a fuck about that? And then
he really was like, wow, Galadriel and I have bonded. She would be so upset if I died.
Yeah, like, so he's just deceiving the whole time. So I'm just like, if Adar says like he was dedicated to healing Middle Earth, but he was like in that fortress, like I guess he was trying to make the ring, but he was experimenting, or I guess he didn't know about it. Like, he didn't know he was going to make a ring. He was just trying to see what he could do. But it's like, if that was like his healing phase, then he's still trying to like do something dark with it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just like, it doesn't make sense really, like, for him to be repentant. Like, in my mind, for him to be truly repentant, he would have like gone directly back to Valinor and then faced judgment. But he's still there, like, in this other disguise, like doing, like, lying and shit, like, you know what I mean? So, and he's stealing stuff from people. I mean, I know that those Numenorian guys were assholes, but
well, but there are levels of asshole, right? There's, the bar asshole, and then there's the genocide asshole.
Right. So, yeah, I don't buy into it.
I agree. He wasn't repenting. He was feeling sorry for himself. Like, that's what I think it was. Like, I think and I wrote about this, something about this on Twitter. I think Sauron knows that he was doing evil things in the first stage, and he can grasp that those things were evil. But I don't think that I think he's a sociopath. I don't think he's able to really understand like the concept of remorse and like what it means to like feel compassion for the people you hurt. I think he could see that Galadriel was in pain because of something he did, so he said sorry. but then the next opportunity he has, he plays dress up as her brother and tries to manipulate her, right? Like, that's not the action of someone who feels bad about something he did. It's some he's unfeeling. He doesn't know. He cannot really grasp like the magnitude of his actions, in my opinion. So that's why he, will do shit like what he did to her in that dream vision thing.
Right.
So I agree. He wasn't repentant. He was sorry for himself.
Yeah.
All right. Go ahead, Josh.
I was gonna say, but on the other hand, like I do the stuff that like I do like about it is that like the entire scene, the entire sequence where he does the reveal to Galadriel, all of that was great. Like the acting, the performance, like the dialogue and all of that. Like, all of that was perfect. If we get more of that, I think we will. It's just that like the lead up to it, I feel like they just didn't. Yeah.
I agree. I said this too on Twitter that I think that the jump from, oh yeah, I'll be king of the Southlands, Galadriel and I are bonded at the end of episode 6 to Galadriel, you and I need to rule the world in episode 8 didn't work. Like I didn't really buy his like, you've really brought me back, Galadriel, to my Dark Lord phase, or I'm not a Dark Lord anymore, right? I think we needed more of that development from him. Like it was, again, the build up to the reveal wasn't good because I didn't buy that suddenly Sauron was like, yeah, I want to rule the world again.
Right.
Yeah. I think, again, just the main point is I just think it could have been handled better if the writers, I feel like, again, just gave the audience a little more credit and, like, just executed it better. I'm not saying... that's one thing I don't like about, like, criticism these days, and everyone's always like, well, how about you make $1 billion show and you write it? I'm like, okay, well, I'm allowed to critique shit, you know? Like,
yeah, really.
I don't understand that criticism. I'm like, oh, well, how about you make it better? I'm not saying I have to make it better. I'm just saying it could have been done better. Like,
well, that's such a silly thing. So we can't critique anything. Like, I can't ask for anything to be improved because I couldn't necessarily write it better. Like, okay.
I know, that's ridiculous. All right, well, if you guys want to actually move on to the rest of the season.
Coverage.
Yeah, I think we're pretty good on that. But to kind of like halfway segue to a different topic, I want to talk about Adar because for me, he was one of my favorite parts of the season. Mm-hmm. And for being kind of like Sauron light in this season up until the end, I liked the way he was written. I liked the way he looked. I liked the way the actor portrayed the role. It just, for me, that's the kind of thing I was looking for in this show. Like, I didn't need the show to be about Sauron. So, when we were kind of in that midway point in the season, we're like, all right, like, what's this guy's doing? Like, what are his goals? Like, I was really into that. And obviously, like, the high point being episode 6, which I think is the best episode of the season, hands down. Except for the weird ending of everyone just accepting Halbrand as the king, even though they didn't know him.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just thought Adar was great. So if you guys want to kind of, share your thoughts on it, I just wanted to share mine.
Yeah, I agree. Adar was a highlight of the season for sure, and that was part of the reason I was like, I was actually in general, I was like, the Sauron reveal is going to be hard because Adar is just such like a compelling antagonist.
He really was, yeah.
Yeah, like, so I was like, ew, whoever it is, like, has to be better than Joseph Mullen. That's really hard. And I'm so glad he wasn't killed off because I really do want to see him in season 2. But I thought he was a great antagonist. He was somewhat tragic. Like, you could feel a little bit bad for him just because we know what happened to him.
Mm-hmm.
But he was also just like completely ruthless. Like, he was like, the way he would just kill without hesitation was also excellent. And I loved his interactions with the reindeer.
Same here.
I wouldn't mind seeing those two together again in season 2. Yeah, I just thought he.
Liz? Josh, are you still there too?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Okay, now I can hear you. Okay. Lost you for a second.
Oh, okay, I think I muted myself. Anyway, he was a great character. That was all I was saying.
Yeah, I agree as well. Like when the rumors came up about him being in the show, like his name was like, you know, the rest of the characters had like code names, but they stuck with Adar that whole time. But it was like I was, you know, just speculating like, would he be Sauron in this, and would he be like the Witch King or something like that? But like for original character, like it really felt like he was part of the lore.
Mm-hmm.
Like they literally took out a character, and he was, you know, that they took stuff from. I mean, in a way, kind of, because we know that the elves were taken to make orcs. So, and they, like, I feel they did it very well with this character going into that history with a little bit that they can touch on. Like, I mean, they don't have the rights to the Silmarillion, but like they did it very well. I mean, I don't know. Like it was really interesting. Like every scene with him was just interesting. Mm-hmm. From start to finish. They had like when he was talking to Arondir, and he was like, well, the first scene, but even before he meets them, those 3 elves were talking about, like, they were speculating about is he Sauron or whatever, but then obviously, I mean, we knew that wasn't the case, but it was just something about it that was just really cool. And then, like, him actually caring about the orcs was really nice too, because like Saruman, we've never seen that. Like every other villain that we've seen in Lord of the Rings, like there's no kind of like care for them. Mm-hmm. Even the orcs fight with each other. So like it was just like really different. Just like, you know, because like in the third movie, or even before in the second, in the Two Towers, they're eating each other literally. Mm-hmm. So like. So it was interesting to see like these orcs like paying respects to their dead and everything. And, like Galadriel was threatening to like get them into the sunlight, and then the Asgard yeah, all of that was really cool. Everything with him was nice. But I'm wondering like. Mordor still in Mordor, the time we see the season, like will Theodore run into him? Or if he runs into Sauron, that's going to be insane. But like I don't know how like that situation is going to inspire. Like how is Sauron going to try to deceive him or something? But like yeah, I don't know. It's just, I wonder, like, well, I think Sauron will probably kill Adar when all said and done. But
I disagree. When all is said and done, yes, but I don't think he'll kill him right away.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
I think he'll try to make make an example of him. Not by killing him, but by putting him in his place, basically. Mm-hmm. And I think that in part because like Joseph Mall is just so good that I can't see him being a killed off character in the first episode of season 2.
Yeah,
that would be kind of lame.
Yeah, I agree. It might be like maybe by the end of 2, but I feel like they might want to keep him a little bit longer than that because like that act so much character.
Yeah, I agree. And also I think the actor is just so good to like. I feel like to get rid of him early on, I think would be a mistake because I definitely think he's one of the stronger, like what Liz said, he was one of the strongest parts of the show so far.
Mm-hmm.
And I just
no.
selfishly want to see more of him.
Mm-hmm. What I could see happening is, I mean, you got the impression that, you know, Sauron is like finding his roots again. So I could see what he would do in season 2. I mean, like, Sauron is going to want lieutenants for his army now. And Adar was very successful in season 1 with what he accomplished.
Mm-hmm.
So you would think that Sauron wouldn't want to waste that. Like, that really would just be throwing away, like, someone pretty valuable. Like, wouldn't you want him, like, also leading your armies? And, you know, that Sauron is a very good manipulator. You can say, well, you guys have this home now, but why don't we spread it all over Middle-earth? And, like, Adar might be completely down with that idea. Well, maybe.
He also could, like, I guess it depends on how they do the Star thing. Like, if he goes back, if Halbrand goes back and, like, changes his form completely.
Oh, yeah, true.
If he goes back to Origian and he's like, these orcs are being led by, you know, Adar, and they're causing the trouble and everything, and like they're the real threat, and like, you know, telling Celebrimbor like we got to make more of these rings, so you know, so I feel like it may go down that way to kind of keep suspicion like off of him. So yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely possible.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
okay, was there?
Nick, so just like real quick, because you know, like we kind of talked about it. Like, what did you guys think of episode 6? And because I know I think that's the. I still think that's the best episode of the show. Obviously, it's the creation of Mordor, and just like, so what did you guys think?
Episode 3 was my favorite of the season. I've decided upon reflection. I just enjoyed it the most. But I really enjoyed episode 6. It was really well directed and beautiful in many scenes. I really loved the scene between Adar and Galadriel, and the Mount Doom eruption was pretty amazing. Like, it was a very good action-focused episode. And did it meet like my every expectation? Not really. But I thought it was very very good, and I get why it's most people's favorite.
I still have to see which on rewatch. I guess when I do my rewatch, I'll see which one is my favorite. This episode 6 might be though. I definitely think it is one of the best episodes of the season. But I just before saying which one is my favorite, I want to do a rewatch. It definitely, like, I've seen some like I saw this one reaction to, and this guy was reacting to the episode, and he was like, "Okay, this feels like Middle Earth," and I'm like, I mean, sure, but like, and I feel like that was the most Jackson like episode, Peter Jackson episode out of all of them, because the epicness and the like all the visuals. I mean, I'm not saying that like Tolkien isn't epic, but I'm just saying like from a visual standpoint and just like from battles, the way that the battles was kind of like playing out, it just felt like more Peter Jackson to me than like everything else. Because I'm like, the guy that was saying that, I feel like he doesn't, like, I think he's more of a Peter Jackson fan.
Yeah.
You know? And, I mean, like, I haven't read all the books. I've read The Hobbit, and I read, like I said before, I read a little bit of Silmarillion. But, like, you know, like, that guy was getting pissed off with the harp. A lot of people hurt for me. Like, I don't, like, you know, I don't think just because there's, like, sword fights and epic, like, horses charging on.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like when people see that, they're like, "Oh, that's Middle Earth," but really, like, Peter Jackson.
Yeah, I agree. People saying like, "Oh, finally something happened in this episode." I was like, something has been happening in every episode. You just think that like action sequences are when something is happening. When actually action is probably like when the least is happening. It's like this is just like when we finally like reached like a breaking point. Like that's really all it is.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, and I so for me, episode 6, like I think I agree with you, Josh, as far as like it feeling the most like the Peter Jackson films, and it just like they felt like the stakes were there, and I was on the edge of my seat the entire episode, and again the way it was shot, the way it was edited, the music, everything, like that episode, like I'm not saying every episode had to be like that, but for like the types of like big battles and stuff like that I was expecting from the show, that episode did what I wanted the show to do, at least in that single episode. And
yeah, I get that.
Yeah, and like again, Arondir was great. The way that just the setup of basically the way they handled everything, again, except for the very like last scene, I thought was really, really well done. I liked seeing Galadriel Arondir meet for the first time on screen. And just the reveal, like when you find out what's going on when, they're about to cause the eruption of Mount Doom. And that was just visually one of the best things I've ever seen in television. And just, you felt this, again, because you're like, oh shit, like now, like, I'm not trying to say like, oh, now this feels like Middle Earth or anything like that I was saying, but now it felt like, okay, now this shit is real. Now, like, this is where Middle Earth is at, and they need to act now,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And just, I just really loved it. The performances were all great, and like, I was worried for Bronwyn. Definitely thought she was about to die.
Mm-hmm, same. I was having anxiety.
Yeah.
Theo.
I said Bronwyn was going to die, and then and Liz and Taz were saying no, I'm wrong.
Wait, who was going to die?
That I remember I was saying that Arondir and Bronwyn were going to be fine, and you guys were stressed. I mean, I understand stuff. When it was happening, I was like tripping, like I was really like scared and stuff. But I don't know. I just felt that they were going to survive. I mean,
it's not my fault. I thought that Ismail was the one who gave a vague answer about season 2, and I was like, "Oh, he's not making it out of this season alive. He's dead." No, that was why.
Well, I mean, they're definitely they're doomed, I think, but I feel like that'll come eventually.
Yeah. Yeah, I hope Arondir makes it to the Last Alliance, though. I'm gonna hope for that.
Me too. And now that now that we're on the subject, this is the one thing I wish we had the time to talk about last episode that we recorded. Arondir, again, easily one of my favorite characters in this season of the good guys. Him and Bronwyn's chemistry was electric. Liz, if you follow Liz on Twitter, you know that she's been pushing for more sex in season 2. And
okay, why did you just put it that way?
I mean, am I wrong?
Dear Lord, I just want media to be stop being so sex negative. Like, I'm not asking for explicit sex scenes. I mean, I wouldn't mind, but like...
your tweets say otherwise.
Listen. It doesn't need to be that explicit. I just think it should be there. That's all.
Well, anyways, so yeah, Bronwyn and Arondir, like every time they were on scene, I'm just like, kiss already, like.
Yep.
And I like the build up. I like the slight slow burn of their relationship. It was nice because I know like. The Hobbit movies kind of tried something similar with Tariel and Keeley, and I know that's not the most popular thing about the Hobbit movies. Just the whole like romance with an elf thing, and I think the show did that really well. And I think Arondir's a great character. I think Bronwyn's a great character. Like, but in episode 6, when they say like, "Oh, Halbrand's the true king of the Southlands," I'm like, I'm not saying that Bronwyn had to, because I'm sure she was, obviously she was about to die, and maybe wasn't like the most thrilled about the idea of officially ruling these people. But still, like, she, if anyone deserves it, she did.
That was just like the funniest case of like Bronwyn did all the work all season, and then the man shows up in the most like extravagant way, and it's like, oh, we'll just bow to you then. Like,
well, no, it reminds me of is like in high school when you're like the kind of like loser in the group when you're doing a group project, but then like it's like the popular kid who does the presentation, and then you get the good grade because of them, but you did all the work.
Yeah, Bronwyn carried the Southland. Bronwyn and Arondir carried the Southlands on their backs this season.
Yeah,
and they were not really rewarded very well.
No, yeah, and honestly, and I missed them in the finale. Like, I understand that we're not going to see every character in every episode, and that is one criticism I have of the show. I do feel like they might have too many characters to show what they're doing at all times, because I definitely felt like there were times where I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot these characters were a thing because we haven't seen them in like 2 to 3 episodes. Like the Harfoots. I like the Harfoots, but like I saw this video on TikTok of I don't know if you guys know who Don Marshall is.
No.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, yeah. So like he made a video the other day, like with his like criticisms of the show, and he was saying, Logan, don't do that. How with the Harfoots, they would show the Harfoots and the Stranger would do something magical, and then the Harfoots as a group would feel something about it, and then that would be it for that episode. And then that went on for a few episodes. And like, yeah, I mean, I kind of agree. I don't think it was bad, but like, I feel like nothing like really happened with them until the finale.
That was the other general problem with the writing, is they were so obsessed with making us think the Stranger might be Sauron that we just like had this kind of same back and forth with the Harfoots and Sauron the Harfoots and the Stranger for the entire season without much resolution, because they didn't want to tell us who he was yet, because then we would know he's not Sauron, and we need to keep that mystery going. Like, it should have been revealed earlier.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, and I think you and I had talked about it before with the Stranger in the reveal, and I quoted the Lord of the Rings and saying like, I feel like if he was Sauron, he would have looked fair and feel fouler kind of thing. Like, I think at the end of the day, we all knew that the Stranger was at least a wizard.
Yeah.
Like, the fact that they even tried to be like, oh, maybe he's Sauron. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Like, that...
And it was honestly, it was lame that those 3 mystics thought he was Sauron. Like, that was lame.
I know. I will say, though, of all of, like, the reveals of Sauron and stuff, like, the way people thought a person was, the funniest one to me was the Southlander guy who thought Adar was.
That was funny.
When he, like, went down on his knees. It was just... It was the first point in the show where I felt like the writers really were like just like messing with us as an audience.
Oh yeah, that was definitely the case.
And like I enjoyed that. Like, I thought that was funny. I don't know if it was necessarily meant to be funny, but I thought I enjoyed that.
That was funny.
It was funny. Yeah, I mean, I guess back with the Southlanders, I thought like that whole plot was maybe the best one of the season.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it was Numenor, but like, the Southlands plot I thought was just great.
I thought it was just the most engaging too for me.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's just like because it felt like that's where things were really moving along.
Yeah.
And maybe by mid-season it had stalled a little bit, and that was a problem. But like there were like a lot of the best scenes of the season were there. Like I thought all of the scenes where Arondir was captured were excellent. That was part of the reason episode 3 is my favorite. And the scene where he helps Theo escape was amazing.
Yep.
When they're being chased. And then I thought like their whole battle with Adar's army was great. If in a way I liked that better than when Numenor showed up. Like it was really
Yeah,
cool
same
to
here.
see just like these average Joes like try to defend their village from an orc army. Like that was really good stuff. Like, and I think Arondir is just a great character. I thought he was one of the best characters of the season, if not the best one. And he was an original character. He was just like, and he really felt that he was a heroic character with like a moral code that he always stuck to. In a way, I was like, wow, he was almost going to let Bronwyn die. because he wasn't going to give up the sword. And even when Theo said, "I'll tell you where it is," he was like, "No." And like that was kind of a lot, but like you really had the feeling that he was willing to do anything so that Dadar wouldn't get the sword. So I really liked his character, and I can't wait to see where he goes in the next season. I mean, I really don't know where the only thing I can think of for the Southlanders in season 2 is that they are the ones who are some of the ones that are going to be caught up with Numenor's imperial ambition.
Yeah. And I will say, like visually, I think Numenor was one of the best looking places in the show.
Yep, if not the best.
Yeah. I will say as far as story goes, it got a little boring for me. It wasn't bad. Like, I think Muriel is probably the most interesting character to come out. Well, actually, no, that's wrong. I love Elendil. I love Isildur.
Josh sounded pained. What about Elendil? You're right.
Elendil, Muriel, like, do I think we really need to see,
we're
like...
not going to talk bad about Isildur. I love
No, he's good, but, like, it's funny, because, like, for some reason, like, because they moved themselves kind of out of Numenor for those last few episodes, I don't consider them Numenor for whatever reason. Anyway,
I know why, Nick. It's because of Halbrand. And I know why. You can say it.
No, it's not even that. Like, for me, like...
So Numenor sucks.
I mean, Numenor, the only reason why, it's just, like... I feel like, I don't know if we necessarily needed, like, Isildur to have a sister, because, like, I felt like she kind of did nothing. Like... Yeah,
she exists for something down the line. So she can die on Numenor, I guess, and they can all be sad. That's, I think, why she exists.
Yeah, and then just, I don't know, like, some of the other plot stuff that was kind of going on there, like, I just didn't necessarily care too much for, like, Muriel's father. Like, I don't know if I care too much about that storyline. Again, it's not bad, it's just not all that interesting to me in the scope of everything else that's going on in the show.
Okay.
Like, the end of the show, like, with Muriel coming back and her being blind now, and her and Elendil basically about to, get it in.
Okay, they're moving in together. They're good. He's moving into the palace with her.
Like, that for me is way more interesting than what they were doing earlier on. And now that, we know Isildur's alive, so they have to resolve that. Like, those three characters, Isildur, Elendil, and Muriel, for me, were easily the best parts of the Numenor storyline. And I think that's probably the goal, but, like, just everything else leading up to that, up until the finale, as well as those last couple episodes, just could have been a little more interesting to me.
Yeah, I thought that and this was really important, and I think it's very good that they did this. I think the relationships that Elendil had with both Muriel and Isildur were some of the strongest aspects of this season.
Oh, I agree.
They built his relationship with Muriel from nothing because they didn't know each other, but by the last episode, I felt like, yeah, I believe that these two are, like, in it together, like, it feels like they really forged a companionship, romance, and, like, so I totally believed that, and I think that also his relationship with Isildur was great, like, a rocky relationship that felt believable, but they were both still likable, like, and I was really happy about that, because the Numenor storyline, as we know, is a very, very sad one, and I think it in order for it to hit as hard as it needs to, we need to really believe these relationships and, like, the beliefs of these characters, which I did. So I get what you're saying, Josh. I think that episode 5 in Numenor brought it down. Like, I thought episode 4 in Numenor was great when it ended with them all, volunteering.
Mm-hmm.
But episode 5, it was a little bit less interesting. And Farazan needed more screen time. Like, he was intriguing. He was intriguing for sure. But he just, he's clearly being set up for big stuff later.
Yeah.
But I will want to see more of him in season 2. They need to do more with him.
Yeah, because I feel like, again, like, they set up... They did that with a few characters, where they just kind of, like, they set them up because they're probably going to end up doing something down the road, and then didn't do much else.
Yeah, and it was disappointing, actually, that they really didn't establish Farazan's relationship with Muriel very well. Like, we know they're cousins, but, like, I didn't... And you believe she trusts him and that he cares about her. Yeah, but I feel like I needed more from those two. Like, how much does she trust him? Like, these are two that really have differing beliefs. Mm-hmm. So I hope that's explored in season 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and again, like, it's real quick, again, it's like, it's in Isildur's sister, like, and the storyline with her, and then, like, that one random dude whose name, like, I don't know.
Came in.
Okay, whatever. Like, I just, like... For me, if anything, that just kind of took time away from characters that I actually care about. Like, yeah. I don't think the show would have suffered if that wasn't a thing,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I just, like, the scene where maybe it's because the actor portraying Elendil, he has such great, like, on-screen presence.
Mm-hmm.
I feel every time this man is on screen, I'm like, it's just, like, fire. Like,
yes,
it's good. Like, it's so electric. Like, because he does feel like an actual, like, Tolkien character.
Yep.
Like, he just commands the whole scene. Like, when they're having that dinner together and he's talking to his children, like, all of that just felt really to me also. Like, it felt like a dad and his kids, like, there's something going on in this family, but he's trying to hold it together, but they're on kind of different paths. Like, Isildur is struggling with something, and his daughter kind of is too, and, like, the kids kind of have somewhat of a closer, they have a closer relationship with dad, but, like, I just like all of that, like the real family to me, and just, like, when Elendil and Galadriel are having scenes together is great, and then like, I liked how she apologized to him, and he was going over, like, about us and all. Like, I just, like, all of that was so good to me. Like, I'm like, can this scene just keep playing? Like, all of that was so great. And then the wave scene, like, when that shit was so good too, because, like, some people were complaining about, like, oh, this kind of ruins the surprise. I'm like, no, like,
they can Google it.
This been around for, like, this, for me, this raises the stakes, because you, as an audience, like, you're hoping that they stay in line and they don't end up, like, having that fate. Like, you're on the edge of your seat the whole time. For people who don't know about it, like, obviously we know, but, like, even still, like, I'm gonna be still trying to root for them or whatever. So, like, all of that was great. It also, like, the book after the Two Towers is called The Return of the King. Like, we know that everyone is going to, like, you know what I'm saying? So, like, there doesn't need to be a mystery, like, or that doesn't need to be kept as a surprise. I mean, I still think it will be a surprise when it happens, but so yeah, I just, like, and even just the little thing of seeing Narsil up on, like, it just has so many of my favorite things in there. Even when Galadriel is, like, on the boat and she's leaving, the leaves are falling down and the music comes.
Oh, that was great.
Yeah,
that was so good.
Like, all of that was so perfect. It was so good. I loved it. All of it.
I know. Just real quick, something I kind of wanted to bring up to you, Josh, like Liz and I kind of talked about. So, like, I think it's pretty much, like, you know, at this point, like, this show is not part of, like, the Jackson version of Middle-earth. And that's fine. You know, I didn't necessarily need it to be. But I will say the show does a very good job, intentional or not, of, like, these characters either look enough like the actors if they're playing like, previously cast roles from the Jackson movies, or even like Elendil, I could feel like, oh, I see the resemblance between him and Aragorn, you know, or like I feel like that at least that amount of continuity of character or continuity of lineage that like I don't feel like I'm watching someone completely different than who I watched in the Jackson trilogy. Like if you're someone coming into this having only watched the films like maybe like once or twice, you know, I do feel like the show does a good job of being like, okay, well here are these characters that you know, like here's Elrond just with short hair, here's Galadriel, here's, you know, if you know, and then with the other characters, you know, of course, like Elendil and Isildur, I feel like there's definitely enough there, like character wise, and just like in who they cast to play these roles that, you know, you see that okay, I can see how this guy is related to Aragorn, because especially with Elendil, and, you know, when he's talking to the horses and all that stuff, and then you know, pretty much, even though they didn't show it, and we thought they were going to show this in the finale, you know that Isildur's horse is going to go for him, just like that, you know, Brago in the Two Towers did for Aragorn, you know, so like stuff like that is, you know, again, I didn't need those. I don't know if they were for sure, you know, intentional or not, but just like I liked how the show did that. At least for me, as someone again who has only watched the movies.
Okay. I was going to ask, like, how do y'all feel about stuff like the horse going back to? I mean, know that for sure, but I think it is going to happen. Like, how would some people think that's doing too much, like that's like making too many parallels to Jackson, like problem.
So some people think it's too many parallels.
Like to the Jackson movies, like if Brago, or not Brago, but Beric, if he goes back to get Isildur, like, and, you know, find that the whoever, if Gandalf or whoever, like the line that he says, like, always follow your nose, like, do y'all think that's doing too much? Or do you have a problem with that?
No.
I don't really. Like, it's fine. Like, again, like, obviously I haven't, being a broken record here, but, like, again, having not read the books, I don't know, like, what lines from the movies were in the books specifically. So, like, you know, if I'm watching something and I recognize it from the movies, like, oh, maybe that was in the book. If it's not, okay, that's fine that they're tying back to the movies a little bit. But for me, like, it's not really that big a deal. It's kind of, you know, like a little thing for the fans. Again, I think for the people who might be a little more like a casual viewer who'd be like, oh, okay, I remember that from the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just don't think that they're that prominent, honestly. Like, that they would bother me. Like, it hasn't gotten to a point where I feel like they're referencing the movies, like, every episode. It just, so, no, it didn't bother me.
Yeah, and that, I think that would be the difference, right? Like, if this show was, like, only referencing the movies every episode or something like that, like making it like very clear like that this is Lord of the Rings and like, and we know you guys watch the movies.
Right.
Yeah, and I do personally hate it when it's like, because this happens all the time, especially with prequels, where it's like they feel like they need to give you an explanation as to how everything ever happened. This happens a lot with Star Wars. And I'm like, I really didn't need that explanation or this reference. It's too much. But like, Beric going back to help Isildur is not that for me. Like, it's, you know, that's just kind of like, they're both horse boys. Like, that's really like, that's it. And that's not like, I don't find that very forced. To me, it's just like kind of, it's honestly kind of subtle. Beric Brago didn't even go like that out of his way to find Aragorn. He kind of just came across him, it seems. So it's like, it feels like very different things to me.
Okay.
Now, if we get like a weird crossfade of like, you know, Elrond talking Elvish while a Harfoot's, going to see the elves or something, then maybe that might bug me. But
yeah,
like so far the things that the show has done to kind of sort of tie to the movies, doesn't bug me. If they made it way more overt and way more obvious, then it might bug me. But right now, I think it's just subtle enough that I think it works.
Yeah, we'll see how they keep it up. But for now, it never really bothered me.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. As we get at least kind of closer to the timelines of at least either The Hobbit, it'll be interesting to see what they do as far as trying to tie into that at least a little bit. Because I think that is one thing too. Watching the Hobbit movies, I could definitely see a little bit of all right, well, here's this thing from the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Here's the setup for that. Where I'm sure that was more of a studio thing, being all right, and make sure people know that this is a prequel to the Lord of the Rings. And so little things like that did kind of sort of bug me in the Hobbit movies. Not a ton make me hate it or anything, but in media with any sort of prequel story, that is the concern of all right, how much are they just gonna shove in your face oh hey, this is the prequel to this big popular thing. But so far I think the show's done a good job of doing that, and in season 2 I'm curious to see what they do, if they do much as far as that goes. But honestly, I don't think I'm too worried, because I think the show has kind of done enough to make itself stand out and to become its own thing, even if visually and and with the music of the show, it could, if you wanted to believe that this was tied into the movies, you could if you wanted to, but it's not saying that it is definitively. It's its own thing, but it's kind of letting you take it as you want it at the same time.
I will be very curious to see what Bear McCreary does with the One Ring theme, because that, we have a lot of characters. I know we have Elrond and Galadriel, but I feel they're at a place where you can give them different themes. And also, I'm not even sure Galadriel had a real theme herself in The Lord of the Rings, or if it was just a Lothlorien theme. Same with Elrond. So, but the One Ring is an item that is in Lord of the Rings, and then it's a theme that everybody knows. My impression is he'll try to do something different with it, but I would find, me personally, here, if I, see the Golden Ring and it's in Sauron's hand and it's looking all ominous, and I hear something that's completely different from the other theme, I might find that a little jarring. I don't know. Because I'm so used to it. I know that theme. I can always hear it in my head so easily, and it's iconic. So that's going to be hard. I'll be very curious, because that'll probably come in season 2.
Yeah, it was a recent interview that he did with Bitter Geek, and I think he was talking about it, and he was saying that it's going to sound something similar. It might sound something similar to it, but I don't know how similar. Because the ring kind of has I always think of it as a creepy children's quad voice or something so. I don't know if it's going to have that aspect of it, or I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, and that is one thing though. As much as I absolutely love Howard Shore's themes for the Hobbit trilogy and the Lord of the Rings trilogy. I remember when they first officially announced that he wasn't doing the score for the series. I was a little bummed. But once I heard the music for the show and heard Bear McCreary's music, I'm okay, yeah, this is totally good. Not even substitute, just a good choice for this, because musically, the music, if anything, might be the best part of the show.
I manifested this to happen, so you're welcome.
You did. It was one of the things he tweeted a year ago.
I was if it's now Howard Shore, this has to happen, because
and then it did.
Yeah, because his God of War music in that game is so good. You can hear a theme in there, and then you're oh, that's clearly a dwarven sounding kind of song or whatever. So yeah, they did a great job in getting him to do this.
Yeah, and I like that they gave Howard Shore the opportunity to do the intro music for the show. Like, because it still feels like Lord of the Rings without necessarily being just like a theme that we all know and love. You know, like I like that they did something different. You know.
Yeah.
Let me ask y'all this. Like, I do like the theme that it's not like bombastic or whatever. It feels like really magical, but like I saw that someone said that the end song of the last episode, like the Song of the Rings, like would that have been better if that was just the intro?
No.
Okay.
I wouldn't want something with lyrics.
Okay.
Yeah, I liked that, but I think I kind of agree with Liz. Like, if they had gone the lyrical route, I don't know if I would have like hated it, but like now, like, you know, because we don't have that, it's kind of hard to imagine like if that was, you know, if those end credits talking about the rings, if that was a thing, how would I feel about it? I don't know. Like, I'm kind of fine with or without. It wouldn't like make or break it, but I did like it though. I did like hearing that, and
it was a good way to end the season. I had problems with how quickly those rings were made, and personally, I didn't care for the fact that they were made first.
Mm-hmm.
But when it, like, you know, we saw that shot of Sauron in Mordor, which was a great shot. It was a perfect way to
beautiful shot.
Perfect way to end the season. It was like he didn't say anything, but he really, you know, captured the character right there. And like then that shot of Mordor, like, and then like, you know, cut to black and that song starts playing. That was excellent. That was just it was a perfect way for the season to end.
Yeah, and I will.
Go
ahead.
Like the way, like the second movie ends, like the two.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. It was very similar, and I that was great because that's such a great ending.
Yeah.
Yeah, I very much so felt that same way. Oh, hi, Liz.
What happened?
You clicked video, I think.
Oh shit! I don't want camera. There, I fixed it.
But yeah, and like also like, I mean, I guess now that I think about it, like I know the show is called Rings of Power, but like I don't know if that's necessarily would need to be reminded like every episode that like, all right, where this is about those rings, because like this season wasn't like about the rings, you know, like. I think the Rings of Power basically is like a title to kind of show like, oh, what kind of time period that the show is in. And I don't think it necessarily is like, all right, every season's going to be solely about the rings, because, you know, it hasn't been. Like, the rings, it kind of like, it was kind of like a slow build, and then, of course, in the last episode, they're like, all right, we got to make these rings this second because Halbrand's here.
Yeah, really. And they were making, it's not a crown, it's something smaller. that was funny. That gave me a chuckle when he said that. He said it needs to be smaller. That was good.
I do like how the rings look though. I did like those though.
They look like engagement rings.
They kind of do. Like. They look a little different than I expected, but like not like in a bad way. Like if I was gonna guess, because I know that you see them like briefly at the beginning of Fellowship of the Ring, or like you kind of see like at least Galadriel's ring, in the movies. But like I don't know, I like the design, even if like how they were made could have been better.
I feel like the rocks on the rings in this show are bigger than the ones that are in the movie. Oh, they are. That
was one thing, because like I just started my rewatch of Fellowship the other day, and I was looking for details because I obviously know that the show isn't officially tied in, but just like having that little bit of history in the show, like just so I can make little comparisons. Like I noticed that too with the size of the rings, or at least the size of the jewels.
Yeah.
And an issue I had with the ring making was I didn't have the impression that Sauron contributed enough that those rings will somehow be under the one ring.
Yeah.
That was a little odd to me, because I watched that and I thought, so when he puts on his one ring and the elves all know, oh shit, because they have their rings, like, I mean, I guess they could just like do the opposite now, like when he gets there and I guess he'll find out that they made those 3 rings, which is, you know, is different from canon. I guess he'll just like work knowing that and try to, I guess, make sure that he makes them in a way that those three are also under his, or even though they are different from the main rings, but I don't know, that I found that a little confusing. I didn't have the impression that he contributed enough.
Yeah, I see that. I guess I haven't really thought about that deeply until you said that. But yeah, because that is one thing I remember watching the trilogy for the first time. I did have a question, all right, so how does this one ring control the others? Because, of course, as a casual fan, it's not necessarily explained, Sauron contributed in this way and then this capacity. So, as a casual viewer, you're okay, I just accept that this one ring controls the others somehow, all right. So, even in here, when you see however much he, helped them, yeah, I see what you mean, Liz. It's a little confusing.
Especially since I don't really think he has his big ring scheme planned at this point. Maybe now he does, but I don't think he did in those scenes.
Well, in the books, it's now I'm getting really confused now because, the lore, he has no knowledge of the three rings, right?
No, he goes to Region and he makes I think it's 16. Yeah, I can do math. He makes the 16 rings, the 7 for the dwarves and the 9 for the men with Celebrimbor, and then he leaves to go on holiday in Mordor. And while he's gone, Celebrimbor makes the 3, and he makes them in the same way, but not exactly the same way, but with the same technique as Sauron showed him. And then when Sauron puts on the one ring, first of all, the elves who have the 3 rings know, oh, that was Sauron all along, oops. And then, that was our bad. And then also, when he does that, Sauron realizes, oh, they made 3 rings without me. That's not good. And that really sets him off, and that's part of the reason why he attacks Region. And he wants those 3 rings more than he wants any of the others.
Those are the most powerful, right?
Yeah, I don't know why they're the most special. I mean, I guess they're the most powerful, I guess, because they're not as subservient to Sauron's ring. But I don't know why he would particularly want those, but I guess they are just, maybe it is just because he can't completely control them. I don't know.
I feel because those rings kind of help sustain areas. It's weird. It's not fully, you don't get a full description of a list of the abilities, but them that I get is just Galadriel helps makes her land flourish with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I feel that attracts Sauron. He would want something of that kind of ability, I guess. Mm-hmm. But I was going to say how, what did Halbrand know about? I mean, he might not know about the number of the rings, the 3 rings, but wouldn't he know that they're crafting they have at least one elven something that they've made, right?
Yeah, he would know that they would have finished their project, whatever it was. He might not have known that it was rings, and he would have thought it was 2 and not 3. So I guess he would be kind of in the dark at this point. But once he gets to a Region next season, which he will, I don't know. Will they just conceal those from him? I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, do we want to talk about what we think is going to happen in season 2?
Yeah. Let's just go ahead and do that, because I think we've pretty much covered all the main stuff. And Liz, you and I kind of talked about the Harfoots a lot last episode, and the only difference now is that we didn't talk about before was
Gandalf is there.
Yeah, or is it, or is he Gandalf? I don't know. The show might have another twist.
I love how they didn't tell us. That's still so funny. I think it's Gandalf.
I hope next season they just say it. Just because I'm kind of getting tired of that. That is. I mean, I understand with shows you do that a little bit more so, I guess. And like with movies, I don't really think I mean, I guess it depends if it's like a mystery movie or something. I mean, it's like the Star Wars movies done it too with like
too much. So bad. No, so bad.
But
yeah, I agree though.
I mean, but you know, like I think they gotta just give some clear answers on. Like I don't think everything needs to be like that because we know he's a wizard now. There's a few, like there's how many of them could it be? Just say it now, like you know.
Yeah,
what I mean?
I agree.
Yeah, like honestly,
what is the benefit of it being a secret?
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like I just like. Okay, I understand doing the mystery stuff for the first season. I really hope that they just, like, gave us a clear answer early on, and then they're kind of done with the, oh, who's this person?
Exactly. God. If they had introduced some big mystery character in season 2, and we have to spend the whole season going, is that Celeborn? I'll just, like, no.
Or you know what? Hey, you know what? Or maybe the stranger is Tom Bombadil, like I've been saying. I don't know.
Really, God. Let's hope they don't do that. Let's talk about what we think will happen in season 2. We're gonna start with Isildur because I love Isildur and we haven't really talked about him. So what is his journey gonna be in season 2, Nick and Josh? He died this season, and that is very tragic. Unfortunately, we lost him. But what's gonna happen to him?
Next season, and then he'll, you know, it'll happen weirdly where he dies and he's a wraith, and Sauron still gives him a ring.
Oh God, that would be a lot. Didn't he become a wraith in a video game?
Yeah, that was. I mean, I'm fine with that because it's a video game, but they made like people complain about lore changes in this show. Yeah. Like Christopher Tolkien, I'm sure he was not happy with that either.
Oh no!
I mean, is Christopher Tolkien ever happy? Like.
But what is going to happen to my son Isildur? Is he going to have a happy season?
My guess is definitely not. He's going to be going through some shit.
Yeah. Well, I feel like partly because of him, I can't imagine there'll be a significant time jump just because we have to know what happened to him. Mm-hmm. I think a couple of weeks at most. Mm-hmm. And I wouldn't be surprised if one of the first scenes is like him just like pulling his way out of the rubble and being like, oh wow, I was left behind. That's a bummer. And I'm going to guess he won't meet Sauron just because I can't really figure out the logistics of that.
But what about, like, does he meet Adar?
He could meet Adar.
But I feel like if he meets Adar, it'll be like a Rondir again. Like, and then he'll have to date or something. Like, I don't know if they want to retreat, like a...
Yeah, that's fair.
I mean, I wouldn't hate that, but it's... Like, I do find it interesting that, like, he is the hero until that, that point when he takes the ring for himself.
Yeah. So
it's like... I feel like we had to really start seeing like heroic like aspects of him, and he has been. I feel like Elendil has been more of that than he has been.
I agree. Yeah.
The build up to that, but like, I don't know. I don't know how it's gonna play out.
I don't know how they're gonna do it. I mean, it could be. Because I agree, I think we need to start seeing Isildur on his hero's journey. I think that's very necessary for the show. And we know that he'll do very heroic things, but not really until later. So what are they going to have him do now? I mean, first of all, I'm not even sure where he can go once he gets out of Mordor because like all the Southlanders moved. Like they're not even going to be there. So it's not like he is going to go back to that encampment and be like, hey, I saw that your king in there, and he seems kind of sketchy. I don't think that is what's going to happen to him. So I'm not sure, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's in Mordor for like the first couple of episodes. That wouldn't surprise me.
Oh, I think that's probably for sure what's going to happen.
Yeah,
at least 2 episodes.
Fast, yeah.
Yeah.
He might be, like, sneaking around and doing a lot of stealth. Like
maybe it would be that. Maybe, like, he sees... Like, that would be kind of very dangerous. But, like, could it be that he, like, is in Mordor? Maybe he's making his way out, and he sees who he thinks is Halbrand there, who he knows is supposed to be, like, the king. Just, like, you know, wandering around, and he's like, what is he doing? And then he follows him, and, like, it figures out that he's, you know, more than he seems. Maybe he doesn't know he's Sauron, but that he's
not
a
good.
bad guy. Could that be it? Like, that'd
be kind of interesting.
Because if he does, when he goes back to Numenor, like, and when Sauron goes back to Numenor, then he'll know, like, he'll be, like, one of the ones, like, telling him, like, no, like, he's back. Well, Farazan would know that he's Sauron, and by that point.
Well, unless he's in another form.
Yeah, that's true.
That's another thing we have to... Yeah, so that's one thing we have to consider is, like, do we think that Sauron's going to take another form this season?
So, I mean, it's hard because right now, who knows? Who knows that Halbrand is Sauron? Galadriel does. That's it. Elrond knows that Halbrand is not what Galadriel thought he was. That's all Elrond knows. My impression is that Elrond's gonna know that, like, it was something big, and Galadriel's gonna have to tell him. So now we have the list of 2. I think Elrond's gonna have to know. Do we agree? Do you disagree with me?
No, I don't disagree.
Josh? Yeah, I think Elrond's gonna know. So that's 2. No one else in Middle Earth knows. Yeah, no one else, right? Yeah, no one. So that leaves us in a place where, like, some people need to be told. Like, notably the Southlanders. Someone needs to send them a letter.
But the thing is like, so Galadriel she only told Celebrimbor that if he ever comes back, you're not to don't listen to him, don't treat him.
Yeah.
So,
because
like,
she's still kind of embarrassed.
If he comes just as Halbrand, then, like, you would think Celebrimbor would be like, no, I can't mess with you. Like, you're something, like, wrong. Something is up with you. But, like,
that's what I would think too.
But, and, like, just, like, we know how he feeds into the stuff. So, like, I don't know. Like, if I was doing it, I would still want Halbrand to take another form. But the thing of it is like, is it going to be Charlie Vickers though? Like, how are they going to? Are they going to keep him and put him in makeup, or, like, do some CGI work on his face, or, like,
I don't really want them to do that.
Or, like, are they going to get, like, a whole actor for that Anatar, like, form, or are they just going to just do Halbrand? They call him the Lord of Gifts. Like, that's the one that I don't want, because, like, I'm just like, I want Grimoire to be a little bit smarter, for him to, like, if Galadriel has said, like, don't treat with him, like, he sees him, like, I feel like he should have the smarts to not do that. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like Sauron should take up another form, but I don't know.
I agree, and it's also, like, the only reason really for Sauron to not take up another form is because they want to keep Charlie Vickers in the role. Like, that's really, and I get it, because and actually I would feel kind of bummed if I was him and it was like, okay, great job, you got your one scene as Sauron, bye now.
Yeah.
You know, that would, like, and I liked him as Sauron in that scene, so I don't really want him to just go away forever. And I don't think he will. He's coming back. We know that. Yeah. It's just in what capacity. And I think he's always going to be, like, the primary Sauron. Like, even if he shapeshifts, like, his face is going to be the Sauron. So, but I agree, like, it doesn't make that much sense to me for him to return as Halbrand, and I think Sauron would also know that. What real benefit, like, of keeping the same form when he would know that they wouldn't want to trust him, unless they're going to make Celebrimbor just, like, really dumb. Like, that would.
he has to sit there, if she still is there, like she would have to like still see Halbrand. Like I feel like it would make more sense if she doesn't exactly know who this person is, but she doesn't like she could feel something is off. You know what I mean? Like I feel like if he just returns as Halbrand, like, and she'll just know who it is. She can't say anything the whole time, like, you know.
No, yeah, exactly. like, is she really that embarrassed? Like, I know it was bad, but like, girl, if Halbrand just shows up again, I think you need to try to kill him again.
Well, yeah, I will say, and that's one thing that kind of bugged me in the finale. So, like, okay, she finds out he's Sauron. Why does she not? Like, I understand if she feels guilty or embarrassed or whatever, but like literally the definition of evil of Middle Earth is here and pretending to be someone you trust, and you don't immediately say, "Hey, Elrond, Sauron is back and he's Halbrand." Like,
I think the smart thing would be that he does tell them. Like he tells Gil-galad about Halbrand being Sauron. She might even tell Brimbor this too. But if he comes as Anatar in another form, like she'll be like, we can't trust people who just walk into our mix.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like so like we have to make sure like this person, because she would know that like he was Finrod too, so it's like she could like what he can do, you know what I mean? So
that's where I'm struggling with him becoming Anatar too, and this is why like I really didn't need an origin story of why Galadriel didn't trust Anatar because like because apparently that's what season 1 is, and I didn't need it.
Right.
But like, if this random like angelic looking creature comes to Eregion like, oh, I want to help you with your smithing. And it's just like, oh, I'm really good at that. Oh, you're ring making? Oh, let me help, please. And it's just like, Galadriel's like, that's a little suspicious. Like, yeah, like, I don't trust him, but you know, it feels like she would immediately be like, that's Sauron. Like, I feel like we need to get rid of him. Like, so that's the other problem. Like, it's going to be very difficult for them to have Anatar arrive and for her to not just be like, that's Sauron, because and also we just did this is the other problem.
And that's a good thing too. Like, I don't want the whole series to be Galadriel sounding crazy because someone might be Sauron or is Sauron, you know? Like,
yeah. And did we not just have a season of Sauron deceiving Galadriel in another form? Do we need season 2 of her not knowing that he's Sauron? Really? It feels a little... I don't know how that's going to work. I'm a little bit worried about it.
He's just not original.
What'd you say, Josh?
Unless it's like she's just not in Eregion when he's there. I mean,
yeah.
I don't know.
I think that is the most like plausible answer. I think that's disappointing because like I was always really interested in seeing like Anatar in Eregion with all these characters, including Galadriel, who just didn't trust him, and him trying to get her to trust him. Like, that was always, like, to me, sounded really interesting. So the idea of her not being there, it's a bummer. But I don't know how they can do it.
Yeah.
I mean, like, Charlie Vickers said, I don't know if he was just, like, hinting at something, or if this was, like, his own speculation. But he was saying, like in the future seasons, like he thinks that like Sauron would try to manipulate her even still. So like,
oh yeah. He said like he thinks that he might think she'll join him down the line, which makes sense actually because he could have killed her in that vision, but he didn't.
Right.
So he might still think like, oh, that my marriage proposal is a possibility.
But if that's the case, then I feel like he's going to have to come in a different... Like, I can't just see... Like, after she's seen him whatever, or I don't know, maybe. I feel like he was. I just feel like he has to use a different kind of tactic or something like that. I don't know.
They're gonna need to really to do some heavy lifting with the writing for for that to really work. As that's a tough one. I personally am hoping we get a Anatar storyline that's pretty close to the material. But we'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, how about Numenor? What's going to happen over there?
Nick, what do you think?
Me, okay, yeah, you can have it, sweetie. Thank you, Logan. Thank you. All right, so what do I think about Numenor? I honestly, I don't. Well, I think they're really gonna focus on Miriel and Elendil's storyline. I think that's gonna be a big focus. I obviously I think they'll be together at some point in the near future. But beyond that, I honestly don't know because I don't really know. Like other than what you guys have told me, what the very little research I've done for outside of the show, I don't really know what to expect. So what do you guys think?
So I think like Farazan, this is when Farazan is going to do the colonizing thing. Like that's going to really happen. And then like me and Liz, we were talking about this on the space like the other day. Like if they do if like he does the colonizing, like what is Muriel's reaction going to be to that? Like is she think that because she said that she wants to return to Middle Earth. So like is he going to try to use this as like, oh yeah, like we're going over there to help the elves and the people there and everything, but really it's going to be like them trying to take advantage over people, like and is Muriel going to be is she going to be like foolish enough, like does she really like play into like how is she going to play into that? Because we were saying before, or Liz was saying before, that we didn't see much of their relationship in this first season. So like, how does she like perceive him in terms of just like, is he really on her side? I mean, like it's like I don't know. Like from I feel like if someone else is like looking at it, I feel like they would know like that he's like who's Aodian, right? Like she saw like his speech, and that was basically him telling the people like you could trust in me. And I mean I feel like that was, he didn't say it like don't trust the queen, but like that other guy was saying like she brought the elf here, and
then he says trust in me. Yeah, exactly.
So like is Muriel like just gonna like fall for like for him, and what I mean, like how is she gonna trust someone who, I mean, she doesn't know that he had that speech and all that, but you know what I'm getting at?
Yeah, no, I totally hear you. Like, how do they do this without making Muriel like a complete fool? Basically, we have a similar concern with our dear Celebrimbor. I mean, how I have it in my head is like their benevolent imperialism, right? Numenor does not become a particularly oppressive colonial power until Farazan becomes king. It might have been dabbled. It was actually probably going on earlier, but in the context of this show, Numenor isn't really a colonial power. Maybe they used to be, but they're not anymore, right? So we're gonna see, I think, in season 2, Numenor becoming this imperial power in Middle Earth. But I don't think we'll see them becoming this oppressive power yet. Not until Farazan gets himself on the throne. Spoiler alert. So I think it will be sold to her as what it kind of is, which is how a lot of imperial powers in the real world see themselves, as this like benevolent force. Like, the Southlanders need our help, which is true. Like, the Southlanders probably could use a hand from a much wealthier power, but that's obviously going to take a turn in a few years when someone else is on the throne. So I think that's how it can be handled, and I think if they do it well, it would be fine. Like, Muriel won't see it really as her ruling over colonies. She'll see it as like.
She won't see it all.
Rude. That was too soon. Too soon. All right. She won't feel that they're being.
So I'm sorry. I had to.
Muriel will think that they're just building these relations with Middle Earth. That's how she'll take it. But when someone else is in power, it won't be that anymore. So that's how I think they'll handle it.
Okay.
But yeah, I definitely hear you about how that's going to be a tough one as well.
Yeah.
I also think she's going to be queen.
Yeah.
At this point, she's not being usurped at the beginning of season 2. It's too soon. They haven't built up to it. We have no reason to think Farazan has even planned that. So I think we'll see her coronation probably first episode of season 2. And yeah, that's a deviation from the source material, but honestly, who cares? Halbrand is Sauron, whatever. I think that Muriel can be queen for a bit before she's usurped. That's hardly the biggest deviation ever.
Right. Yeah, because her dad is dead now, so that just that she takes over completely. So yeah. Also, I'm hoping, because at this point, there's no we were saying before, Theo is the only Nazgul candidate, but I don't think that's really going to happen. I feel Halbrand was the other one, but obviously that's not going to happen. So when they do these colonizing stuff, I feel that will be the way that they do they introduce these men, lords of men being Nazgul or whatever. I
think that you're right.
Who's ever in charge of these colonies, I feel that's the way you could do it. Besides, Kamul, he's in the east. We'll probably see him and Rune when the stranger and Nori go over there. I feel that's the way that we could be introduced to him. But these other men, the Witch King and all of them, I feel that'll be it, I feel
Yeah, I think that's a good way for them to be introduced, too. It makes sense. I hope we actually get time with them, and they're not just these kind of nameless figures. Once we get to Rune, in season 2, every man I see, I'm gonna be like, "Are you Kamul? Are you Kamul?" I'm so excited because he's the only named Nazgul, so it's that when they name him, it's gonna be a big deal. Everyone else is a mystery, but the second that they put the name Kamul on someone's face, we're gonna know that that's a Nazgul, which sounds like another potential mystery box if we meet some random mysterious figure in Rune who refuses to say his name or something. And we'll just be spend the whole season is that Kamul? Is that him? I hope not. Watch them introduce 5 men who refuse to say their names in Rune, and we just have to figure out which one it is.
Please. I don't. We don't need to do that every time.
Yeah. I'm really excited to see Rune, though. It's one of my most anticipated things about season 2, because it's a completely new place. Numenor was different, but Numenor still had kind of Gondor vibes. I feel like Rune, we've just never seen it. I'm so excited to see it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's going to be really interesting, because they could make it a desert kind of or jungle, something they could make it a desert / jungle area, or something like that.
Like a completely different environment. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to Rune for sure. I don't know what the heck they're gonna do over there, but
it has to be another. I mean, it all depends on if this guy is Gandalf or not. I feel like,
Yeah.
Like if he's Gandalf and he's going over there, then I'm like, what is happening? Like, but I feel like if he's a blue wizard, I feel like it makes more sense that he will run into the other one. So I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like the show is trying to make it seem like it's obvious that he's Gandalf, and like everyone, I feel like a lot of people have just accepted that he's Gandalf already. I don't feel confident in that he is yet. Like a single line that was said by Gandalf, okay, like I can see where you would get to that conclusion, but I personally don't feel confident enough saying, "Oh, he's Gandalf" yet.
Here's the thing: if he was, and that line was supposed to be the reveal, would the writers have not just come out and said, "Yeah, he's Gandalf"? Would that not have just been the natural thing to do? Mm-hmm. Because they were, talking about like, yeah, here's our Sauron reveal, but they just didn't say anything about him, which you'd think if that was the big Gandalf reveal that they would have. Why still keep it a secret?
Yeah, because that's the thing. In all these articles that said, "Oh, the stranger's identity is finally confirmed." I'm like, is it? I mean, we know he's a wizard. That's the only 100% concrete thing we know. Yeah, it's.
Maybe he just got that advice from Gandalf, like in Valinor.
Well, I mean, and again, I'm not saying like you're wrong for believing that this is Gandalf, because like he has a relationship with the pseudo hobbits. He says you follow your nose thing, and he overall just feels like very nice and like a warm, caring kind of guy, which Gandalf was. Like I get that, but just until we get more definitive evidence, I'm not calling him Gandalf yet.
Well, see,
they gotta give him a name.
Yeah, the other thing is like Galadriel said a line that was said by Elrond. Like the first line that she says in the first episode about nothing is evil in the beginning or whatever. That was a line that Elrond said in the books. So like, even I think like the lines that in the movies, like in the first movie, in the Fellowship, like the line when she's like doing the prologue, like the first few lines are from Treebeard, I think. So like they do give different characters like other characters lines.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
stuff like that. So maybe that's the case here. But I still feel like if this is Gandalf, then I don't know. Like, why not just make that even more apparent? But
yeah. Yeah, I get it, and obviously in the follow your nose thing, I feel like that was made to make it seem like it was obvious, like the way that the line was set up and everything. They're like, "All right, guys, this is the big line, so you'll know who this is." And like, I feel like it didn't necessarily even need that. Like, if he's not Gandalf, then that's definitely wasn't needed. You could have just kept the one wizard line, and it would have been fine. But then if it is Gandalf, then you should just made that at least a little more clear. I'm not saying that it wasn't already clear, but just like, I don't know.
Well, it's far from his most famous line.
Yeah.
I know. Like, it's, I mean, obviously they're not going to have him say, "You shall not pass," or something, like that obvious, but like...
But I feel like I do need to I feel like part of me is like, Josh, just accept it.
Yeah, I'm kind of like that too.
I feel like I've done this with Halbrand.
Me too, man. Me too.
That's fair. And I know, Josh, because I was doing it with you.
But at least you were trying to prepare us for the inevitability, and we didn't want to hear it.
That was me in the group chat, but in Josh's DMs, I was like, "Josh, I don't want it to be true. I don't want it to be true." So I was being two different people. Yeah.
So you were being Liz the deceiver. Oh, I see how it is.
Yeah, a little bit. I was lying to everyone. I mean, like I was being very honest in the group chat.
I mean that's a better reveal than fucking Halbrand.
Honestly, yeah. We didn't talk about the dwarves at all.
No, we didn't. No, the dwarves are, again, another great part of the show.
I loved them.
Their theme, I think they might have had the best theme of the show.
Yeah, honestly.
It's definitely up there. Yeah, it's up there.
It's so good, and it's so recognized. Like, it feels so much like the dwarven themes from the Hobbit movies, without being directly that. It's like that deep male, though. Those
Yeah,
they were great, and I loved Durin.
And Disa too. They're both great. It was nice to have like a nice wholesome Middle Earth romance, you know?
Yeah, they're just happily married.
We had to say this. Like, I know that there's been dwarf female characters, but they've been in the background as extras. Like this.
Yeah.
What Sophie said, like, this was the first one. Like I don't care. Like, yeah, like I said, like, there's been extras that we've seen in the Hobbit movies, but as a character, no. Like, this is definitely one that we've seen, and she was great. She was great.
She was fantastic, and then her singing scene, like,
oh no, it was one of the best scenes.
And that was so good, so good.
Yeah,
and,
she sounded amazing.
Yeah, and she was great. And then, like, both of their relationship with Elrond, like, even when Durin was first, like, still, like, not fully happy with Elrond, and rightfully so, like, even Disa and Elrond had, like, really great scenes, you know? Like, they felt like a true group of friends catching up, you know? Like, that was honestly one of the best parts of the show, just, like, that relationship and, like, exploring that. And, like, I felt like it was one of the most, you know, human things we've seen from dwarf characters in these movies. Like, I'm not saying that, like, we haven't seen, like, real emotion or anything from the dwarves in the other movies or in any other Tolkien media, but, like, I don't know, there's something about just, like, the way that, you know, Durin was, you know, confronting Elrond, saying, like, you know, again, like, 20 years for you is a blink of an eye, and for me, that was, you know, that was years of my life, and you missed so much of my life, and I felt for that, man. It was so good.
Yeah. Yeah, he was great, and I bought their relationship. Robert and Owen had really great chemistry, and I thought it was good because we know what the dwarves are gonna do for the elves when, like, things start getting a little bit bad for the elves. So I liked how that was good setup for, you know, that coming up, you know, in a season or two. I think that was good, and I was glad that the Balrog wasn't set loose.
Okay, I was gonna ask y'all about that. Like, and I'm kind of like, I mean, I'm more chill than I was, but, like, I am a little bit still fearful of this Balrog just coming loose in one of the seasons, because I really hope this does not happen, because, like, I just feel like that will really complicate the timeline. Like, it needs to be like Balin still needs to get there. Like, you know what he does there before, you know, it gets loose. So, and that's way in the future. So I'm just like, if that happens, like, what, like, I feel like that's unnecessary to do that.
Well, the Balrog gets loose in the Third Age and kills everybody in there, and then, like, hundreds of years after that, Balin comes back to recolonize it. But I still agree with you. I still don't think it should happen now for a few reasons. But I'm worried that it will, because I feel like I could imagine the writers thinking, oh, at the beginning of this show, we see all of these kingdoms, like, at the height of their power, right? We see Lindon, Numenor, Khazad-dûm. Am I missing one? Not the Southlands. No offense, Southlands. But like those were the three main kingdoms. And I could see them thinking, oh, like, the proper narrative here is that by the end of the show, all three of those have fallen. Eregion will fall as well. But Lindon doesn't really fall, but it does go away. You know, like it's far less of a powerhouse. It's not attacked; it just kind of fades. And and Numenor we know falls. So I could see them thinking that, like, the show at the beginning is the height of all these different powers, these kingdoms, and then by the end they've been brought low and all of them have fallen. I understand, like, the temptation of that narrative, but I don't think it works, mostly because, like, so many of the dwarves in Khazad-dûm would have to die for that, and the dwarves have to be there for the last alliance.
Right.
And also that feels like almost it would take away from, like, the urgency of the last alliance, like, you know, all of the dwarves just getting wiped out, unless they're going to imply that, like, Sauron figures out a way to wake up that Balrog, which I wouldn't like that either.
Mm-hmm.
So
like
I don't know.
Do it themselves because of their want for, like, more riches and all that, whatever, exploration, whatever. Like, I think that makes that's more compelling than just the evil doing everything, whatever.
Right.
But,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I feel like they...
Go ahead.
Nick, were you going to say something?
Oh, no, you guys can go ahead.
I was going to say something just real quick. Like, also, like, Galadriel has to pass through there, right? Khazad-dûm?
True, yeah.
So that's another thing. I think Elrond go through there, too?
When?
Yeah, I think when Eregion, or, like, when Sauron completely, like, takes over Eriador, like, that whole area, I think that's when they have to, like, the elves kind of, like, go inside Khazad-dûm, and then they shut off from, like, the orcs.
That's not what happens. That's not what happens. Sorry, that sounded short. No, I didn't mean to sound like that. I'm sorry, that was rude.
Josh, you're fucking wrong. How dare you?
That's incorrect. You failed your lore test for the day. No, I know what happens. I know what you're referencing. The dwarves go back through there. Eregion is attacked. Like, you know, Sauron kills Celebrimbor, spoiler alert, and from there he just starts attacking Elrond's army, and they're overwhelmed, and they're all gonna die, oh no. And then the dwarves from Khazad-dûm come out, and they, you know, overwhelm Sauron's forces, and Elrond's forces retreat to what will eventually be Rivendell. And then the dwarves just go back through Khazad-dûm. That's what happens.
Okay. I thought there was some part where it's like Galadriel and Celeborn have to go through Khazad-dûm, and then that's when they end up crossing over to Lothlorien, but...
Yeah, that happens before Eregion falls, though.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah.
But she also comes back through it after the war.
Okay.
And she after the war, well, not after the war, but, like, after Eregion falls, I think, she comes back through Khazad-dûm.
Okay.
Well, all right.
Yeah, okay. Do we think that they're actually going to get to the War of the Elves and Sauron in season 2? I don't feel like...
I don't think so, personally.
Well, the thing is they said that there's going to be two battle episodes.
No, 2 episode battle. A 2 episode battle. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So just one battle in 2 episodes, I think.
Oh, okay. So it's going to be like one battle, but then it's like 2 parts, basically.
That's what it sounded like, yeah.
Okay. But then it's like, if that's the case, then what battle is that? Like, where is that taking place?
I don't know. The only one that would make sense in canon is the sack of Eregion. But I don't think we're getting there that fast. Like, Sauron hasn't even gotten them to make the other rings yet, and he has asked to make his own.
I'm trying to see, like, so episode 1 we know it's going to be 8 episodes.
Yes, unfortunately, it should be 10, but we're at 8.
All right. That's one thing I do feel like...
They say it's 50 hours of television. They're lying. It's not.
Well, I mean, the episodes themselves are like an hour and 10-ish minutes, so I guess we have to kind of take that into account. I don't know.
I guess.
I think this show, at least this season, needed another episode or two, because that last episode, as much as I liked the finale, the Sauron reveal stuff and all that happened way too quickly.
Yes.
If that one episode had been stretched into like 2 or 3 episodes, would have been much better.
Yes, but God forbid we like delay our big reveal scene. Like, because if we showed him working with the rings, everyone would have known he's Sauron, and we can't have that. So we had to do the reveal scene right away. So.
Yeah, I know. I'm saying like it's.
I agree with you though. If they were more concerned with good writing, that's what would have happened.
Okay.
But yeah, Josh, there is a 2-episode battle. Yeah.
Okay, so like. If Sauron is in a season, doing the rings, then would it just be the dwarf? Like, if that happens next season, right? It would have to make the rings or they make the rings the whole time. Like, they're like before the sack happens, they make those rings there. Like the dwarf rings and the men rings, but then it's like, will he have made the one like after this happens, like next season, or like I don't.
Yeah, I feel like we're getting the One Ring next season. Like, there's no way they're not giving that to us next season. But I just don't know where, like, a battle works into all of that. I mean, it's possible they're just going to make up a totally different one that didn't exist in canon. They did it this season. Like, for all we know, it's actually going to be between, like, Numenor and just some random group within Middle-earth. I don't think that would be the case, but I don't know. Like, it will. I mean, Numenor wants to come back to, punish the enemies that they that harmed them. So, could it be that? Like, is Numenor going to try to attack Mordor? I don't feel like they're going to do that. Really, it seems more likely it would be something stemming from Sauron, but I don't know.
Yeah, because if it does happen. Like, if all of this happens next season and the Sack of Iridian happens, then it's like, what happens next season?
Well, then I guess we'd have to have 2 seasons of Sauron on Numenor.
Right, that's what I was going to say.
Which isn't terrible. I actually do feel like 1 season of him on Numenor is quite brief. But, it's a TV show, like, so I would assume that that's just the plan.
I can't find them, Dada. I can't find it.
I'm just everything else, because, like, the Numenorians come in, like, if they come at the end of season 1 to help the elves, but I feel like Farazan, that's, like, that happened. I mean, they could change this. Like, they could change. Because that happens, Farazan is the ruler at that time when he takes Sauron.
Yes.
They could change that for the show, but I feel like I don't know. I'm not trying to be so much lore accurate, but I feel like it's like, I feel like it's better to have Sauron be captured by a Farazan because
he should be, yeah.
Yeah, like he thinks that he's able to. At first, he thinks he's able to. What's the word? Like, he's just full of himself. He thinks that, like, I mean, his army does crush, like, his army of orcs and stuff. Like, it's said that they're no, like, match. Like, the orcs are no match for the Numenorians when they come, and we kind of saw that in the first season too. But, like, I feel like knowing how Farazan is, like, it's reasonable, like, that it just makes more sense that Farazan, like, he thinks he could hold Sauron in a cage.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Like, but I feel like that has to happen when he's a king, though. So I don't know. Maybe maybe it could still happen. He's still in a high position, and then maybe like Muriel will start to like that will cause more of a divide with Muriel and Farazan. And Farazan, maybe they can play it to where like Farazan is telling Muriel that, you know, like he's giving Sauron some leeway or something like that, like when he gets really into his ear or something like that. I don't know. Maybe they could still do it, but I don't know.
I don't like that idea, mostly because this would start to imply that Farazan usurps the throne because of Sauron's influence, and I like that he does that on his own. Like,
yeah, that's what I was saying before. Like, I just like how that plays out more. Like,
like Farazan is not a bad guy because Sauron like put ideas in his head. Farazan was already a bad guy.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I don't need them to imply that like all of the bad comes from Sauron. So right. I don't know how they're gonna handle that. I'm gonna go ahead and just guess though that Eregion's not falling next season. Maybe I'm completely wrong, but I actually don't want to lose Celebrimbor in season 2. I feel like it's too quick. I feel like season 3 is better.
Yeah, I agree with that too.
Especially since they just finally gave him some good material in like literally the last episode.
So then maybe if it's an original battle, maybe the orcs, like maybe Adar thinks he can like do more, like maybe he just doesn't want Mordor as his like hit home for the orcs, and starts to be like, we could like take over everything, and then like, you know what I'm saying, and then like. That's another battle that happens somewhere. So.
Yeah, I could see that happening.
But I feel like as like a tactic, like a military, like from a military standpoint, like because Mordor has those mountains around of it, like so it's hard. Like they have their position very well. You know what I'm saying? Like if they. Like, I mean, they don't have a black gate up yet, but, like, I just feel like it makes more sense that, like, you don't really need to go anywhere else unless you're just thinking about world domination, then sure, but, like...
And that's not really what Adar wants.
Yeah, he doesn't, right, so... It's just, like, I don't know how this, like, who's in this battle, like, who's fighting, and, like, where is it going? I don't know. We'll have to see.
Yeah, we know too little so far.
Yeah.
We'll see. Yeah, I don't know. Season 2, I'm excited for it. I actually think I'm going to like it better than season 1. And I liked season 1. I'd give season 1 a B+. Maybe a B. Maybe a B. But a B+ if I'm being generous. But I think that potentially season 2 can be just, like, way better.
Yeah.
And I think they've laid the groundwork for a lot of it really well. Not all of it, but a lot of it I think they've laid the groundwork for. So I hope that they can pull it off in season 2. I hope it's great.
Yeah, me too. And for me, like, I really like this show, but I don't know if I can call it a great show yet. There's a lot of things I like and love about the show, and it's done a number of things that I haven't been the biggest fan of or that particularly interested in. But overall, I'm glad the show exists, and I'm glad I watched it. And same thing with you. I want season 2 to be good. I'm not saying season 2 has to be the best season of television ever, but just maybe I hear that. I hope that they kind of listen to some of the, you know, the good complaints.
Yeah.
That they take the constructive criticism. Not the racist or sexist criticism. Like I hope they take that some stuff like, okay, well here's what where we can improve on and try to make the best show we can, and not just, you know, because my worry was that it was going to be Game of Thrones but in Lord of the Rings. That was definitely my fear when this show was first announced and first coming out. And
I agree.
And I'm glad it wasn't. It definitely wasn't that. But I just hope that they take the things that worked and keep working on those and making them better, and that they take the things maybe that didn't work and just do their best to try to improve on them and see where that goes, I guess. I just want good Lord of the Rings TV. That's all I don't exactly have like a super high bar.
Yeah, I agree with all that.
My thing is like, I mean, I'm sure I'm gonna like season 2 still, but like when they were like, I mean, I guess they could always still change stuff in the script, but like they were already doing all this stuff like before the show started, like the script and stuff. So do they even like, are they even going to attempt to like change stuff? I guess they can. I mean, that does happen. But I think like in an interview or something like that, they said like they've done a lot of the show like for season 2, like before the criticisms of season 1 started. So I'm like, are they really going to change stuff? Like, are they going to try to like do those, like try to clean up stuff, like, you know? Yeah.
That's a good point, because they already started production, you know. So I guess there's only so much they can really do since they are pre-planned all this stuff like well before the season even aired. You know, it's
right.
We'll see where it goes, I guess.
Yeah.
They did say that this season is going to be way more lore accurate, but I'm like, that's cool, but I'm just like, what else though? Like, is it going to be like, are they still going to keep on with this Gandalf thing, like mystery thing? Like, because I'm not interested in that shit. Like, it's clear, you know what I mean? So
yeah, and that's my whole thing. Like, again, like enough of the mysteries. Like, mystery is fine for a little bit, but the way they handled it again could have been way better. I didn't need 3 mystery characters of who they were. You know, I didn't like. Again, the Stranger, okay, fine. Who is Sauron? Okay, fine. But, like, is Adar Sauron? Is Halbrand Sauron? Is the Stranger Sauron? Like, didn't need that. And we definitely don't need anything like that in Season 2. Just tell us who the wizard is. Give him a definitive name of who he is, or at least what kind of wizard he is. And then that's it. We know who Sauron is. We know what he's capable of. Let's move forward.
Yeah.
I agree.
All right. So unless you guys had anything else you want to talk about as far as wrapping up our thoughts, I mean, overall, I think, again, the show is very good. I liked a lot of it. There's characters I absolutely love. There's probably some of my favorite in all of, you know, what we've seen in live action Middle Earth. And again, there are some things I think could have been done way better, as, you know, we've said multiple times here. I'm excited for season 2. It sucks it's probably not going to come out for like another 2 years.
No, less than 2 years, please.
Again, I hope it comes out sooner, but we'll see. And it sucks, like, because if that ends up taking a while, and then that and the Rohirrim movie are also not coming out for a while, so we're going to be back into our dry period of no Middle Earth content for a while.
Yep. Well, I'll just be analyzing set photos and casting nudes for the next year and a half. It's going to be a year and a half, not 2 years. That's what I'm telling myself.
I know. Yeah. Even like early 2024. Okay, fine. That's like a little over a year out. That's fine. Like
January 2024.
But I don't know. Like, well, I guess it's more expensive. I guess it's more expensive to shoot this show than other Amazon shows. But like, I don't watch The Boys. I don't know if you guys do, but I don't know. Is the turnaround for that show like a year?
Josh, you watch it?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty quick.
Okay.
The way that
they need to get that production team on.
I mean, I understand it's a little more difficult because they have to go all over the world for these locations and stuff, because they're not exclusively shooting in like the UK or New Zealand or whatever, which, you know, kind of a little bummed that they left New Zealand, but it is what it is.
Yep.
Because I remember when that was announced, like, oh, they're sticking with New Zealand. Okay, it gives me some hope. And like, the show was fine. It didn't necessarily need to be all of New Zealand, but just, you know, that's Middle Earth. But yeah, so did you guys have anything else that you guys wanted to say before we close out here?
I guess to just wrap up, I agree with all that Nick said. I thought it was a very good show. I think it has potential to be even better, and I hope it is in season 2. I think they've laid the groundwork to make something really special. And at moments we could see that in season 1.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope that they take advantage of all of that. And we get something really great in season 2. That's how I feel.
Yeah. No, I agree. There's definitely room for improvements. But overall, it's really good, and I do think it is. It doesn't feel like a cash grab to me, because that's what some people thought it was, and I just I don't see that. Like, I feel like they put in, even though there's like some stuff that in their writing, I feel like they should have had more thought into, or like with the whole everything with mainly the stuff with Halbrand and Sauron and stuff, and then. It's like the mystery boxes, and stuff like that. But like, I still think though, like they still did a great job. Overall, it does feel like Tolkien's world on screen, and the visuals and all that was great. Like, I was kind of concerned because, like, you know, that first picture of Valinor that they dropped, like I was sold entirely, but then like the Wheel of Time show came out, and I was watching that, which is a decent show, but it still got me like a little bit worried, because I'm like, no, like this looks TV, and I'm like, Lord of the Rings has to look much, like this has to look like on the scale of like the movies, and they brought it to home with that, and just the music, the music was great, and the costumes are good, but like there has to be more costumes for the characters. So.
I know, that was so weird in season 1. Why was Galadriel wearing the same dress for like 3 episodes?
And then Arondir too, the same, like his armor is fine, but like.
Well, I will say with them, I don't think the Southlanders, I don't think we're getting a chance to change their clothes.
Well, I guess that's true. Okay.
It didn't bother me as much with them. It drove me crazy with Elrond and Celebrimbor and Galadriel. I was like, why are you guys have the chance to change your clothes, and you're not.
Okay, well, one thing actually before we go that kind of like very briefly want to talk about. What are your guys' thoughts now that the season's over about the fact that the elves, their hair is not all long?
Oh, the most controversial aspect of this whole show. Whatever. I don't care.
The things is it's the weakest. I mean, it's the least thing that I'm concerned with.
Exactly. Like, I had other issues.
Look, if I was making this show, they all would have had long hair, because I'm just accustomed to that. But like, it's not really a big deal though. I got used to it after the first couple of episodes, but like, it is kind of weird how, like, you know, like Gil-galad has it, but like other characters don't. And the other characters, and
just so fabulous.
Other than Arondir, all of the people with short hair have the same fucking haircut. Like,
they all go to the same barber.
I mean, I do want Elrond to have longer hair by the time it's the War of the Last Line.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
But, I mean, that's only really for him, though. I don't really care about anybody else.
Yeah, like, I don't think, like, Arondir needs, like, elven long hair that much. It's, you know.
I think the way Arondir looks is really great.
Oh, I agree, too. He looks, like...
He looks cool. Really.
Yeah, like, and the people, of course, like, obviously there were, like, a bunch of, like, racists who were mad that he even exists in Middle-earth because, you know...
He's a black elf. Yeah.
But, like, I looked at him and I don't even see a black elf. I just see, oh, like, cool, another cool elf, you know? Like, that's...
Right.
He was my favorite elf on the show.
Oh, same here. Really, like, and I liked most of the other elves, you know? And it's... I don't know. Like, I just, like, you know, I could talk all day about Arondir, you know?
Yeah. But, I was okay with the elves not all having long hair. I got used to it, and I was whatever about it.
Yeah. And one thing, Morfydd Clark is great as Galadriel. I feel like I should have said that sooner, but I wanted to get that across. I really love her as Galadriel. I think her performance has been great. She looks great as the character. And I think she looked fantastic in that finale. Like, some of the shots on, like, just her face, like, just the...
They really did her right with that dress and her hair.
Oh yeah, she looked like fantastic, and I'm, you know, trying to you know, choose my words wisely, because I know I'm married, and my wife may potentially listen to this at some point.
We respect women on this podcast.
But yeah, I think she was great. Even though, like, I do think there are a couple of times where I feel like they I don't want to say, like, dumbed down Galadriel, but, like...
You can say it. They did. They did, and I'm still annoyed about it.
They could have made her just more aware of what was going on, is what I'll say.
That is a nice way to say it.
But yeah, I do think she was great. And I feel like it's just, even though it is the same character that, we saw Cate Blanchett play, like, I like this version of Galadriel a lot. It's, again, the writing aside, I think she's a perfect fit for Galadriel. Like, I don't feel like I'm looking at someone completely different than who Cate Blanchett played,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I just think she was one of the best parts of the show, because, like, a lot of the show revolved around her, and her story, and, like, we kind of kick-started the show with her and her POV and all of that, and I just think that the show did a good job of showing, where this Galadriel is and how she can become the Galadriel we know in the main Lord of the Rings story.
Yeah. I agree.
I agree, yeah.
All right, well, I think with that being said, wow, we've been talking for over almost 2.5 hours now.
We've done worse.
No, well, I just, because last time unfortunately was a little short on time, but, like, this was a good conversation. I'm glad we finally did this.
Yeah, we covered, like, everything.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything we really didn't talk about that I can immediately think of. Yeah, this was a lot of fun. I'm a little sad that the show's over for the time being, because I miss the the week-to-week discussions and the theories and, like, stuff like that, and, like, I miss the Celeborn memes. I tweeted that the other day, and, like, that is probably the one thing I'll miss the most. Is every week I go in, like, the little Lord of the Rings tag thing on Twitter, and everyone would be like, "Where is me?" Or just all this stuff.
That was a good one.
Yeah, and I just...
we must wait a year and a half, not 2 years, a year and a half.
Yeah, I hope so.
Like, I'm kind of, like, part of me is definitely sad, but the other side is, like, I'm kind of relieved because my blood pressure was going up.
I also was getting anxiety from this show with the lack of answered questions every week, and I'm kind of glad that's over. And I also, like, it ruined my sleep schedule for Thursday and Friday every week. Like, it's probably for the best that I'm getting a break. Yeah, I think I needed one. And I'll focus on set pictures and casting news for the next little while, because we're already going to get way more. Now that they're shooting in the UK, so I'll be enjoying those.
Yeah, and it'll be cool to see what comes out and, like, what characters they announce, or, like, who's playing who, because I remember when they first announced a lot of the cast, I'm like, who are these people? And I don't think there was a bad casting choice at all. I think everyone did a great job, even if there were characters that I wasn't that into. It definitely wasn't an acting thing. It was just like there were a couple of, too many characters at some points, but overall, the acting and the casting, I think, was great.
I agree.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
All right. Well, yeah, so thank you guys for being here. This was a lot of fun. I'm sure we'll probably do more of these in the future once there's more Lord of the Rings content to talk about. Josh, it was a lot of fun having you here. This is the longest I think you and I have talked like this outside of Twitter Spaces.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So yes, I have to say thank you for being here, and Liz, of course, thank you for being here, and I will talk to you guys soon. Thanks again.